Let's talk about test taking. It is a huge part of your college success when you know how to take tests well and can avoid test anxiety that causes such grief for so many students. I want to provide a few different websites that can give you some more tools than what we're going to go over today. And these both have strategies for helpful tips as well as dealing with test anxiety. So take advantage of those resources if you are interested in more. First of all, managing your time for taking tests is important. You know, what worked well for you in high school, college is so much different. And college exams are more concerned about you mastering content rather than memorizing, bits and pieces of information. So cramming doesn't work as well. You really have to catch the main concepts of the material and then remember the details that go in with them to be successful in a college exam. So don't overcommit yourself. It's really important to say yes to the things that keep you lined up with the goals that you have set for yourself and the things that you say that are important to you. If you spend so much time doing lots of little things and not the big things that you need to do, like studying, those tests aren't going to go as well for you, and that anxiety will take over because you know you didn't do what you needed to do what you wanted to do. So make sure you plan for 2 or 3 hours outside of class for each hour in class. So you make sure you have the time you need to study. And one of our student tutors says early and often, just study early, review often. The more you do that, the less you're going to have to cram, the less you're going to have to learn at the last minute and be responsible for, stuffing in your head. It's just going to be there already. So studying early and often as much as possible is going to ensure your success. Use your syllabus to your advantage as well as you figure out that test is going to cover from this time frame to that time frame and what chapters did we cover, and you're going to be able to use that syllabus to know, number one, how much the test might be worth, as well as what material will be on the test. Test anxiety is normal to experience. We all have some sort of performance anxiety when it comes to tests. It's normal because it's your body's natural response to a performance request. So, in good situations, it keeps you alert, it keeps you wanting to do your best. It's that adrenaline that your body gets. But when it affects your performance, that's when it becomes a problem. And then it can become a habit, and it takes practice and intention to use that, that adrenaline and that rush and that, natural anxiety to your advantage rather than to a disadvantage. So let's talk about some ways to do that. We all have negative and positive thought patterns, and it's important to train yourself for those positive thought patterns. We talked about that a little bit when we talked about positive psychology and how you view your successes and what matters. I loved this breakdown that I found about negative thought patterns and positive and productive thought patterns. And really, if you think about yourself in a testing situation, you can really go down both paths. It's man, I don't know this information. I'm going to fail this test. If I fail this test, I'm going to fail the class. If I fail this class, I'm going to fail college. I just might as well drop out right now. I totally suck. Versus, the same start thing. Man, I don't know this information, but, talking yourself out of it, taking a step back and just saying, no, wait, I studied. I'm not going to let this get the best of me. I got to know something on this test. Just skip to the next question. I know it'll get something. Maybe the future one will trigger the other one. Maybe I just don't ever get that one correct. That's okay. But, does failing this test mean that I'm a failure in college? Well, maybe it means I fail this exam. Maybe it means I fail this class. But does that mean I'm a failure in life? No. It's just measuring the performance that you did on that test. Maybe you didn't study like you should have. Maybe you could have done better. Maybe you aren't giving it your all. So use that and give yourself an accurate, self-analysis, an accurate criticism. maybe if you aren't willing to do the studying that it does take to get it, maybe you shouldn't be in college right now. And that's not saying that you can't be, but maybe it's just saying this is not your priority right now. And really, not that every test or every question needs to evoke this lifelong, dramatic thought process, but in general, it can be really a negative or a positive pattern that you need to make sure you're taking control of. Here's some tips to do that. Number one, that positive mindset helps. Going into it positive, like, hey, I studied really hard. I know I'm going to be fine. So what if I don't know this about the 20th century, whatever? Just kind of knowing what you do know and coming in with that positive mindset really can help. If you are stuck and you're just feeling that real big stress, use a scrap piece of paper, write on the back. Just write down at least one of your experiences of success, whether it's test or not related. Just sometimes when we can remember something that we did well, it helps us get ourselves out of that bad mindset of, we totally suck. If it was, I made somebody smile today, and it just gets your brain flowing a different way. Keep it in perspective. That's where that syllabi comes in about how much a test is worth. And also that positive mindset of, does this not knowing this test question really mean you're a bad person? No. Maybe it does mean you get a 20 on this, but maybe there's 10 other tests, and that's okay that you bomb one, right? So keep it in perspective in terms of the test, the class, your life. Challenge those negative thought patterns and get them out of your head. Frequently remind yourself of your successes, like, oh, I remember I got this right on a quiz question before, or oh, I saw this on the homework. I remember seeing this on the study guide. I did study with my group and somebody brought this up. Remind yourself of those constantly. And then, be prepared. The more prepared you are, the less anxious you're going to be. And it's essential to testing well to be prepared. I mean, just that's the hands down thing, right? So now let's talk about what to do before the test, what to do during the test, and then what to do after the test, because there are really some strategies that come together that can help you in each of these moments. So before the test, do your daily and weekly reviews. That's what I said, early and often, right? So you take notes in class, you go home, you reread them, you rewrite them, you make some flashcards or cue cards, you make a mind map summary sheet, you study with groups weekly. However you do it, early and often, do it a lot, because then that's going to solidify the content of what you're going to be tested on in your mind. Another great way to study, and this could be the thing that you do, a couple days before the test, is predict the test questions. And that's page 180 these page numbers are from a different textbook, so don't refer to your on-course textbook. This is from a book called Becoming a Master Student, which is available in the library on reserve if you're interested in checking this out. So that's why I left them on there. But when you predict test questions, you can use your previous quizzes or graded papers to use the language that your instructor might be asking you about. Also, you can ask the instructor directly, what kind of questions are going to be on this test? Are you going to be asking multiple choice? Is it going to be essay? Ask them to describe the test to you. And then listen in class for clues. Whether it's in the reading or the notes, or they absolutely say, this is going to be on the test. So listen for those clues during class to make sure you highlight in your notes and in your reading, so that when you go down to study and predict those test questions, you're actually predicting the right ones. Now, during the test, this is when you show up and you've eaten a good breakfast and you know that you're ready to roll because you've done all your studying early and often, and you've done those test prediction questions and met with your study group and you're ready to roll. So now you sit down. First of all, I didn't put this on here, but make sure you have everything you need for the test. So a pencil or a pen, a green book from the bookstore if it's an essay exam, a scratch paper if you're allowed, your calculator, whatever it is that you need for the test. And then relax and forget about the other people. I know that one of the things that really gave me anxiety is when somebody, was really a lot faster than me or took a lot more time than me. I thought, oh man, maybe I missed something, or man, I I don't know this as good as them. So I would pay attention to the people around me and let that affect my thinking. And you really just got to forget about other people and just focus on what you can do and what you're working on. Read directions carefully and completely. I don't know how many people lose points because they didn't read an and or an or something like that in the test questions. So make sure you're reading the questions very carefully and completely. I suggest that you look over the entire test first and decide how much time things are going to take. Maybe there's really short answers that you know very easily. You fill those in right away and then go back and spend longer on the long questions. Maybe there's some different point values throughout the test, and you know that the essay tests are worth more, so you want to spend more time on those, and or make sure you have enough time for those at the end. And then before you turn it in, if you have time, double check. Did I follow the directions? What's my spelling and grammar look like? Read through it, because maybe you have an opportunity to make your point better. And then again, make sure you answer each question fully according to the instructions. There's some tips for types here that I'm going to give you this PowerPoint, and you can print up if you just want to save it and not have to write all this down. But really there's some strategies for multiple choice and true-false questions, and then for some essay and short answer ones. So you can go ahead and print up this slide rather than me reading through each one. One of the things I would like to highlight, though, is this qualifiers. This is something that always causes problems. The all, always, never, sometimes. Make sure that the answer really is, it always does this, or if then kind of questions. The qualifiers are really really difficult to you just need to make sure you pay attention, because it's hard to get those if you're not. Essay and short answers. This is where BS. A lot of students like to BS. Really, cover only the points that are asked for in the question. If you need to make a little outline or something, that's totally appropriate, and get to the point. Write your thesis and then support the thesis with your body statements, and only write on one side of the paper so that it's actually legible. This is also a little Lebec kind of acronym to help you while you're writing the essays. Just make sure that you've got those basic points and you'll be covered. If you get stuck in a test, read the question again. Maybe skip it. Look for answers in other test questions. Treat your gut with care, right? This is my gut answer, but make sure you use your head as well. If you're a picture smart person, maybe you can visualize the answer's location in your textbook, maybe a chart or a graph of what it looked like. If you get stuck on a essay question, maybe free write on another page about the topic or about something else, and might trigger what you're wanting to do. Or if all else fails, write as close of an answer as you can and just hope for the best. After the test is what students typically lack doing, because you're just so glad you're done with the test. But really the best things to do would be immediately after, evaluate how effective your studying was. Are the questions that were on the test actually stuff that you studied? And decide what you might want to do differently for next time. And then after the test is returned, make sure everything adds up correctly. Professors are humans too, and not human calculators typically, and just make sure your points are correct. And then think about what types of questions you missed and what you could learn from any instructor comments, and then make sure you are setting yourself up well for future studying, especially if it wasn't a final and you are going to have more tests in that class. And that's it. Hopefully you can be super effective on your tests with just those few short ideas.